Hi everybody, I'm Jennifer. I'm Higher Ground's Director of Coffee, and in these trying times in which many of us are confined to our homes for work and all the other things, I figured I'd give you a little insight into my own coffee situation at home, which is, well, we'll see what you think. My kitchen counter situation looks a little bit like this. I've got an electric kettle, I've got a Chemex that usually lives up here on my shelf. That's my weekend coffee. I've got a Clever, which is my everyday coffee brewing. I've got an Aeropress, which gets occasional use. I've got a little single cup gold filter dripper. It's pretty hands off, pretty easy. I've got my scale, I've got a gooseneck kettle, and probably some other things in my basement that might come out of the woodwork in the next few days as I explore some brewing at home tutorials for you. So I have rigged up what you can't see is an extremely dicey phone above my counter camera video situation. So let's hope it doesn't all come crashing down, and I'm gonna attempt to just, let you watch me brew an Aeropress. So let's see how that goes. I'm using a recipe I learned from my friend Eleonora that I met in Guatemala a few weeks back. She used this Aeropress recipe in an Aeropress competition that she participated in and brewed some up for us in the cafe at Chica Bean. And it was delightful. So I'm giving it a try with our Apex Series Huabal honey from Peru, which is a really delightful coffee that I've been enjoying a lot. And let's see how it goes in this Aeropress. I tried it yesterday. It worked pretty well. Let's see if I can replicate that for you. So I'm going to start with 30 grams of whole bean coffee. And then I'm going to take it over to my grinder and brew it. Nope, I'm going to take it over to my grinder and grind it. So I spared you the very loud but effective grinding situation. Over to my right, I have my Baratza set grinder, which I enjoy quite a lot, even though it is very loud. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. I just want to show you the grind setting I'm using for this Aeropress is pretty fine. How well you can see that there in this video. Not quite as fine as an espresso grind, but leaning in that direction because this particular Aeropress recipe is going to give us a pretty concentrated little brew, and then I'm going to cut that with hot water for an Americano style cup of coffee. I have rinsed my Aeropress filter. Always a good idea to rinse your paper filter whenever possible. And I'm going to utilize the upside down method of brewing this Aeropress. So I'm not actually going to screw this on to my unit quite yet. You'll see that in a minute. I'm just going to set it here and set my Aeropress upside down on the scale. Somehow in my years of owning this Aeropress, I have misplaced the matching funnel that comes with it. So I'm using my canning funnel. What are you gonna do? Tip my coffee right in there. Tear out my scale. And now I'm ready to brew. Okay, I've grabbed my kettle off of my stove top, and my aim is to start my stopwatch timer here and pour all 150 grams of water in as quickly as possible. That's gonna fill this up right to the tippy top. Immediately, I'm gonna stir pretty aggressively and make sure I'm gonna get very nice equal extraction, even contact between all that water and all that coffee. Nice thorough stir. At about 30-second point, I'll go ahead and attach my filter let it steep and extract there until the 1 minute point. At that 1 minute point, then I'm gonna go ahead and flip this whole unit right upside down onto my cup and slowly, evenly push that plunger down, forcing the water through, and my brewed coffee is ending up in my cup below. This plunging can take a little while. There's a lot of pressure here. It can be kind of hard to push it down, but persist. You will get there. Pretty soon it will make its way through. I mean, that whole plunge took over 30 seconds for me. When I'm finished, then I can just remove that over to the side. Now you see, well, maybe you can't see, but I really only have, you know, 1.5 inches, a few ounces of coffee here. 150 grams isn't gonna give me a whole cup worth. So now I'm gonna treat this like espresso. It's not espresso, but it is a very concentrated base. If I tasted it straight up, it would kind of punch me in the face, be really intense and concentrated. Some people might like to sip it like that or add a little milk. I'm gonna add about 80 grams of water to give me an approximation of a cup of coffee here. And voila, we have our cup of coffee, our lovely Aeropress. I'll tell you how it is in just a second. So it's really hot at the moment, but carefully sipping. I get a nice kind of sparkling but mellow acidity up front, some nice cherry notes. I think as it cools, what I expect from this coffee are some tropical fruit notes, a lot of honey sweetness. This is a honey processed coffee. What that means is the mucilage, the sticky fruit that's between the seed and the outer fruit layer on the coffee cherry is left on there throughout fermentation and drying. So that contact with the fruity pulp gives this coffee a lot of honey sweetness. It doesn't actually have anything to do with honey, but it does give us flavors and aromas that are often reminiscent of honey. So I'm gonna keep drinking this coffee over the next several minutes. I think it will change. I think it will transform as it cools down. I think I'm gonna like it even better in about 3 or 4 minutes once it's reached a really comfortable sipping temperature. And I'm pretty confident I'm gonna enjoy the whole cup. So cheers. I hope you're all enjoying wonderful coffee at home. I'm gonna be working my way through the rest of our Apex lineup over the next several days, couple weeks even, here at home as I explore different brewing methods and tell you what I'm experiencing in these coffees and what I think you can expect. And hopefully you'll get to try them too. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, update a few minutes later as this coffee has cooled down. As expected, it has brightened up. It is a little more lively. It has a nice kind of yellow peach fruity acidity. I'm really loving that. It's very juicy. It's really round in my mouth. It's very satisfying. Also still very sweet. You know, not a coffee that really needs sugar added. Those are my favorite coffees where you really taste the inherent sweetness of the fruit that it came from, and it really reminds you that coffee comes from a fruit. Coffee's a fruit, and that's super awesome. So I'm gonna sit here, I'm gonna build a fire in my little fireplace and enjoy the rest of my cup of coffee. Hope you all are having a splendid day. Happy weekend.